Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Too many business owners struggle with burnout and don't take time to care for themselves. Dr. Tamara Beckford explains in episode 422.
It's not just me. When they have polled these employees, they want this. So it's not just someone on the outside that's saying, hey, you know what, you should do that for your employees. No, the employees want to learn these skills. Why? They feel, and when they learn these skills, it will help them with they'll help them to focus. It'll help them with productivity. It would help them with resilience, with decision making. And even more importantly, it will help them when there's a sudden change in the environment. And it will help them to adjust to these changes that occurs naturally at work.
Talking with the Experts.
Hi, I'm Rose Davidson from Talking with the Experts. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Global Glamping Charities for their valued support. Global Glamping Charities, solving homelessness in all its forms. Reach out to them at globalglamping.org. Do you love your podcast and dislike the editing and uploading to the various platforms? Would you like to spend this time with your family and friends or work on your business? Podcast editing doesn't have to be a chore. Talking with the Experts partners with podcasters who need help with audio and content editing. If you'd like to know more, contact me, Rose Davidson, using the link showing now, or send me a private message. My next guest, Tamara Beckford, is going to be discussing with us Selfcare, and it's a tool that every business owner needs. And too many business owners struggle with burnout, not just because they have work to do. It's also because they don't take the time to care for themselves or have the tools to do it well. Self-care can help promote a healthier work culture and increase employee motivation and loyalty. Now, Dr. Tamara is an emergency physician and the CEO of You Are Caring Docs, a company that helps companies create amazing cultures and reduce employee burnout through self-care workshops. She hosts the Dr. Tamara Beckford Show, where she has interviewed over 165 physicians about self-care, wellness, and the fantastic things they are doing inside and outside clinical medicine. Globally, the podcast, and after the show, ranks in the top 5% of podcasts. And Tamara has been a guest on dozens of podcasts and has presented on the importance of wellness. So I would like to welcome to Talking with the Expert, Dr. Tamara Beckford. Welcome to.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much to all your Global Glamping fans, those who are tuning into this wonderful episode. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my great pleasure. Tell me, why is it that business owners struggle? I mean, we all struggle with it, but how can we care for each other, ourselves in a better way?
So that's a great question. And, one of the challenge that occurs with business owners who are entrepreneurs is you have to get things done. So you do not have the luxury of waiting. So even if you have delegated the task to someone else and they don't do it, guess who the buck falls back on? You, right? So you're used to just moving and continuously moving, continuously processing things here and there. You're used to being I hate to use the word hustle mentality, but it truly is a hustle mentality. You're hustling and bustling continuously. especially if you're at different phases within your business, right? You're in the startup phase, you really are putting in and churning and churning. If you're at the phase where you have now been able to develop a level where you have employees, you might not be churning at the lower level, but your mind is churning and churning. So you're constantly moving, and therefore self-care is one of the last things we think about, right? Now, when we really look at life, and when we look at those who we want to emulate, those who are entrepreneurs who are doing very well, and I'm talking about 8-figure businesses and so on, one of the things that you will hear them talk about is that routine, and that routine really incorporates self-care. And self-care, a lot of times people hear the word self-care and they're like, what are you talking about? I don't have time to go to the spa. I don't have time for a manicure and a pedicure. But that's not true. That's not the only way to incorporate self-care. Self-care is really aligning your mind, your body, and your spirit. What are the things that brings you back to the you before you added these additional titles, right? Before you were business owner, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, who was that person that had that creativity, that time that they spent, that they explored in their mind, and really had a level of calm and peace. That's self-care. And what are some ways that you can do that? Really by incorporating some nice routines in your life. So,
yeah, I agree. I mean, a lot of us tend to overlook the fact that self-care can just be reading a book, just putting your feet up outside, going and having a walk. It doesn't have to be just having a tea somewhere, away from the
absolutely.
computer and away from, you can calm your mind down, because I know a lot of business owners suffer from mental health issues, stress,
Yes.
anxiety,
Anxiety, depression. Yeah, it's absolutely. Yeah, I think it's at least 20%, a little or more higher within the entrepreneurship space. The data could even be way more than that. And let's tack on this additional thing that, this pandemic that occurred that increased the stress level globally also. And as we mentioned, you don't have to have a huge to do or make it a huge task in order to incorporate self-care. You can really incorporate it with very small tasks. As you mentioned, reading a book, 15 minutes, taking a break, reading something enjoyable, relaxing, doing a stretching, like you said, taking a walk, listening to something that motivates you or gets your juices flowing, a song that really pumps you up, the song that makes you feel at your best. All of this is self-care. Some might even do meditation, breathing techniques, yoga. That's all self-care, and it does not take a lot of money, and it doesn't take a lot of time to just recharge yourself. Because you asked about what is it about those who are entrepreneurs that ends up making them hustle consistently, and therefore you're at a higher risk of burning out. So you need to recharge, and those are quick tools that really helps you for the long haul, right? You don't want to be a business owner and then you just frazzle out. You want to be able to do this for the long haul, and these are tools that helps you to do that.
Yeah, as a solopreneur, entrepreneur, it's a really great tips. But how can those same self-care principles be incorporated into a corporate life? So if you're working for a corporation or a business, or people working corporate are totally stressed out, totally overwhelmed, full of anxiety, because just feel the work. And how does the management leadership team, whatever, incorporate self-care for their employees?
Wonderful question. I love this question so much. I've done master classes on that question because it's so important. One of my reasons for doing, and as we mentioned, your current docs, that's what I do, right? I help organizations to create amazing culture, reduce burnout, and to reduce stress by incorporating self-care workshops. So workshops are important. Now, why? A lot of times we see within the organization that the employees are doing this churning and churning. And, there are things going on in their lives outside of work. And those are coming into work themselves, right? Some people are able to separate it, some people aren't. Now, why is it important for us to, as leaders, to really step into the space and to speak to, and even just give 2 minutes to the employee to find out what's going on in their mind, what's going on? So these are small ways that you can incorporate that. Now, I would say, of course, incorporate workshops that teach these skills to the employees, because these skills are not only skills that's going to help them to reduce their stress and their burnout and their likelihood of that, but guess what? It's going to increase their productivity, because when someone is at the point where they are burnt out, their work, the quality of their work starts to suffer. Their productivity begins to suffer. And so now you're having someone who is recognizing that, and they're at a downward spiral, right? As you mentioned in the beginning of my intro, is that I am an emergency medicine physician. So I work in the ER. I think you guys are abroad, so it's the A&E.
Yeah.
That's there. And, I'm in Houston, Texas. So I've been doing this for 15 years. I see the repercussions of the continuous stress in the person. They end up coming to the emergency department, suffering from not just panic attacks, not just depression. They're going beyond that, abusing substances, or even worse, attempting to end their lives. I believe that we can reverse all of this through teaching these skills. Now, is it that everyone who comes to the emergency department is having this? No, some people truly have organic, brain issues, and that are dealing with the organic psychiatric issues. But there are the ones that we can help to avoid, the ones that are related to work. We should be able to work on that, right? We should provide the tools. Now, when I sit and tout, and I go and I'm from the mountaintop, and I'm very, very passionate about this, it's not just me. When they have polled these employees, they want this. So it's not just someone on the outside that's saying, hey, you know what, you should do that for your employees. No, the employees want to learn these skills. Why? They feel, and when they learn these skills, it will help them with they'll help them to focus. It'll help them with productivity. It would help them with resilience, with decision making. And even more importantly, it will help them when there's a sudden change in the environment. And it will help them to adjust to these changes that occurs naturally at work. So the data is there, it's and this is for the resilience. Around like 65% of the people who've been polled, there was a poll in Cigna.com, around 65% of these employees says that, if you invested in this, I feel like I would be better at work, and it will help to reduce not just their stress, but all the mental anxiety. Now, why is all of this important? You teach these skills where we spend 1/3 of our life at work. The other, and probably more people are spending even more than that. Mm-hmm. But you teach these skills to your employees. They can use those same skills and transfer it to life. Mm. These same techniques will transfer to life. So it's not just something that, I'm just going to use these skills when I'm at work. How to handle stress, how to handle changes, how to handle conflict, how to reduce the anxiety. What are quick techniques to bring your anxiety level down while at work? You can use the same techniques in your life.
Yeah, I've worked for organizations where they've had quiet rooms and that's quite a progressive organisation, I
Oh
must
yeah,
say, because you go
absolutely.
in there and not just during your tea break, but you can go in there during the day just to sit quietly. There's no TVs, there's no phones allowed, there's no radios going. It's just a room with some seats in it, very comfortable seating, lounges, cushions, whatever. You go in there and you make a cup of tea, you just go and sit in there, quiet your mind, and just get away from your desk. Because it's not always convenient to go, down the lift if you're on the 54th floor or something, and it takes time to get outside. So they've had these quiet rooms where you could go, and it's really was quite surprising to me that these organisations had such a thing, because they obviously cared about their staff and cared about the fact that this quiet time, that even if it was only for 5 minutes, brought about better productivity, less stress at the workplace, less arguing and carrying on, between staff members. So, so
I
I
love that
think
idea.
more businesses should incorporate those in their buildings somewhere.
I love that idea. Do quiet in your mind? And, I've thought about it too. When you really have a difficult decision to make, ruminating over the decision doesn't make it easier. When you allow the relaxation of your mind and you begin to absorb all the senses, everything that's around you, once you make that decision with a clearer mind, you can move forward.
Mm.
So I love that there's a quiet room, and I'm actually gonna even see if I can suggest that to some other organizations. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It's just a quiet room for someone to just sit and to just get away,
Yeah,
even
the
if it's
lighting's
just 3 to 5
dimmed and
minutes.
everything. It's just so good.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, you can
So
go in there and
yeah.
just chill. And you could this one particular organisation actually encouraged you to go and have a 15-minute power nap in this quiet room, just so that because it was quite a stressful organisation where the deadlines were pretty fine and you had to meet them. You get a task today and have to be finished by the end of the day, and then this was continuous, so there's heaps of pressure on staff members. So I think this is why they had the quiet rooms, and honestly, they're amazing, absolutely amazing. Love them.
I love it. I love that. Interesting. And as you mentioned, it's such a forward-thinking organization in recognizing the power of the mind and how important it is to give it a break in order for it to be more productive in the long run. And this all goes right back to what we talked about initially. Like, we feel like we can continuously continue going, but it's not feasible. Everything needs a break, including our minds. So even that 15-minute rest, mental break, once you come back, you're recharged, and then you can go forward.
Absolutely, yeah.
It.
And there's another thing too, that some organisations I've heard of actually train some of their staff members in mental health first aid, so that they can recognise when someone is not feeling their best, or feeling overly anxious, and productivity's fallen off a little bit, and so they will go and help this particular person overcome the the stresses, and give them some techniques or breathing exercises, or whatever, something that they can do at their desk if needs be. So yeah, I think that's another thing. To mental first aiders in workplaces, I think, would be an absolute bonus, and I think more organizations should have them.
Yeah. And I love that they're terming it mental health first aid. And earlier I was talking about, I know that since I met you, and since we've done even the online communications, a lot has changed. During that time, And I've been able to co-author 2 books, and one of them is Thriving After Burnout. And this book and the other one is Made for More. So both of these books are really about physicians, because this is from the perspective of a physician, that's what I am, who have given so much that they've burned. So there are stories there, from one has stories from maybe around like 50 to 60 different physicians, and one has 47 physicians. So one of the interviews that I did with one of the co-authors, we asked about that. What did it look like? And from the perspective of someone standing, such as a manager, a supervisor, you can look and see your team members and then recognize something's not right. Something's not right in that team member, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's what you're describing as the mental health first aid. You've noticed some of the external signs more before it even, or even while it's affecting the productivity, the work quality is going down, the irritability is going up, the shoulders are slumped, the person is just not what you remember them to be. And I love that someone steps in and intervenes and asks and says, how are things going? Just taking that 2 minutes. It doesn't even take a lot. Sometimes it's only 2 minutes to just listen. Sometimes they just need someone to listen, and it has such a huge impact on people's lives, because overall, when we take the time to listen, teach these skills, have them be able to incorporate it in their lives, when they start to feel better, guess what happens? They'll also be the one to help someone else. And how powerful will it be, a world where we can recognize each other's when each other is at their lowest, and teach them the skills, have them incorporate it, and bring them up. Like how beautiful of a world that would be, right?
Absolutely. I think the world would be a heaps better place if sometimes you just took 2 minutes out of your day just to ask how someone's going.
Absolutely.
Could save a life. You just never know.
It absolutely can. I've seen it. I've seen the difference. I recall a story of a young man who came to the emergency department, and work stressors, and the work stress got so bad that his relationship, he was engaged, broke off. Relationship broke off. He had to move in with his brother. So he's now living with his brother and his brother's family, and he starts to drink. And just luckily, the brother overheard him stating that, he wanted to kill himself. And the person had gone and bought a gun. And so the brother overheard, and this is all, it started from work stress, and was able to intervene and bring that person to the emergency department. So that's why I'm passionate about this. This young man almost lost his life because his life began to crumble one step at a time. He didn't have the skills, or he didn't have the intervention to learn how to deal with the work stressors, and then it spilled over into his life. Now, when we enter into the mode where we can now learn or teach these skills, the skills in his work, and learning how to manage or handle stress, that can transfer over into his personal life. And in the end, we're saving lives.
Absolutely. And I think that is so important. A lot of people who have left this earth, through their own hand, have probably just needed someone to listen to them for 1 minute, 2 minutes, doesn't matter. just
Yeah.
long enough to stop them. Most people don't want to end their life. They just want to just someone to listen to them. And a lot of people just don't take the time. And it's quite a shame, really. I mean, if you're an employee, and you can see that one of your teammates is not performing well, just spend the time, turn around, say, hello, how are you going? How can I help you?
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
you could save their life. You just never know.
You never know. As you mentioned, if you see someone and there's a change in the quality of their work, that's an indication that something's going on. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's drug or alcohol. So we can't immediately go to that. The drug or alcohol is usually an escape route for whatever's going on initially. So if you can start to see and to address and help with the skill set that's needed to help to prevent that person from moving on to that drug or alcohol state, then you've saved their life.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important.
Mhm.
Tamara, if people want to learn more, get one of your books, where can we find the books?
So the books are on Amazon. So the Made for More book, both are from, as I mentioned, from Physician. So I'm co-author on this. So I'm grateful to say that they are actually best sellers on Amazon. So this is Made for More. It's physician entrepreneurs who live life and practice medicine on their own terms. And then the second book is Thriving After Burnout. So Thriving After Burnout. And this one is a compilation of real stories, and it's by female physicians. If you are listening and you'd love to have me on your podcast or even speak at your events, I do love speaking. I love to host. Then you can get in contact with me at Dr. Beckford at yourcaringdocs.com. If you'd like to see more of what I do, I myself am a podcast host, and I do have the Dr. Beckford podcast. So it's at urcaringdocs.com. If you are a LinkedIn fanatic like I am, come and find me on LinkedIn at Tamara Beckford MD. So I know that, I would love to be able to really pour into any organization that's out there that's looking for someone to help with reducing their employee burnout, reducing their stress. As a result, through these self-care workshops, you will be increasing your productivity, and you'll be able to teach these employees skills, like we said, that are transferable, not just from the office, but it transfers to life.
Absolutely. So get on to it, people. Go and see Tamara on her website or LinkedIn. Tamara, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being with me today. Would you like to offer some words of advice before we go?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you are an organization or if you're a leader, check in with your employees. As we mentioned before, it can be just as small as 2 minutes. A 2-minute check-in can give you a taste of what's going on. It puts your ears to the ground as to what's going on with your team, and a better team, will lead to better productivity. And of course, all of this will lead to a lot more of your team really having confidence in you as a leader. So do not hesitate to check in. If you are a leader, if you're a manager, owner of the business, do not hesitate to at least do that 2-minute check-in with your team.
Absolutely. That's very wise words, and something that everyone should be doing anyway without having to be reminded, because, you don't have a business if you don't have your team, and you don't have your team if you don't, and you won't get customers without your team. So, they're important cog in the wheel, and you need to look after them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Tamara, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure making your acquaintance, and I will talk to you again very soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time. Talking with the Experts.